The Pittsburgh Steelers have just made 6 new roster moves after their very first preseason game against the Houston Texans. So, the Steelers, they signed 2 players, they released 2 players, and they've also reinstated 2 players. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like the video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've signed defensive lineman Marquise Spencer and linebacker Luquay Washington. And just to give the introduction to these 2 new players that the Pittsburgh Steelers have signed, first let's look at lineman Marquise Spencer. Because Spencer was originally drafted by the Denver Broncos in the 7th round of the 2021 NFL Draft. And he was a 253rd overall pick. He spent some time on the practice squad with the Broncos in 2021, but then he signed a reserve/future contract at the end of the season. Spencer spent part of the 2022 and 2023 seasons on the New York Jets practice squad. So, just overall, when you look at the perspective of the Steelers signing Spencer, he's not really a huge stat guy because he has spent most of his time on NFL practice squads, so he really doesn't get into the game to actually make an impact. So we're going to look at his college stats really quickly. So when you look at him playing at Mississippi State, he recorded 106 tackles, including 22.5 tackles for loss and 7 sacks over his college career. And that's really the only stats he has because he has been on the practice squad, not getting into games. So the Pittsburgh Steelers sign Spencer to a contract. Now looking at the other signing that the Pittsburgh Steelers have done, they signed linebacker Luquay Washington. And when you look at Washington, he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs as an undrafted free agent following the 2024 NFL Draft. Washington played college football at Central Connecticut State, where he appeared in 37 games. He recorded 110 tackles, including 65 solo stops. He added in 7 sacks with 16.5 tackles for loss and 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. So Washington, he is a rookie. He went undrafted, and now looking at his college stats, he actually had a huge impact in college for his team. And hopefully that translates to the NFL, even though right now it seems unlikely that he'll make the Steelers' final roster. Maybe he makes the practice squad, who knows. But these moves by the Pittsburgh Steelers are more so just camp body moves. Having an extra guy in there in training camp, and also having some more guys for special teams during the preseason, and having more guys as depth pieces, maybe playing with the 3rd or 4th teamers late in games in the preseason. And this could really help the players not make the final roster, but at least show out and show what they could do and make the practice squad, or even show out and make a different NFL roster. They barely have any chance of making this team in terms of the Steelers 53-man roster because they got signed so late. They really didn't participate in training camp, and they're only going to play in the 2 preseason games, but they still have a chance to show out, maybe make a practice squad or a different roster if they perform really well. But they're more so just bodies for the preseason and for camp. So you look at these 2 signings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have made them today. Also, now looking at the last 2 moves that the Pittsburgh Steelers have made as well. They reinstated 2 players. They reinstated defensive lineman Dean Lowry to the active roster after he opened camp on the active/physically unable to perform list. They've also reinstated Cordell Patterson from that list as well. So those are 2 players, 2 veterans coming back to this roster. To be honest, when looking at Dean Lowry when he first got signed by the Steelers, it really looked like he had a great chance to make this team. Obviously, because he's been unable to participate, those chances are going down, but he's still a really good player who's entering his 9th NFL season. He spent his first 7 seasons in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers from 2016 to 2022. Spent last season with the Minnesota Vikings. Lowry was drafted by the Packers in the 4th round, 137th overall in the fourth round of the NFL draft in 2016. He has appeared in 120 NFL games total, starting in 84 of them. He has 266 tackles, 143 solo stops, 23 tackles for loss, 15.5 sacks, 32 quarterback hits, 17 pass defense, 1 interception, 5 fumble recoveries, and 1 return for a touchdown, and 1 forced fumble. So looking at Lowry, even though you think he can make this roster, he just needs to get healthy and show what he could do on the football field. I have him making this roster if he does get healthy and show what he could do. I really think he could be an impact player, especially on the depth side of the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So hopefully he's able to show out and show what he could do for this team. But just to be real about this topic, he needs to hurry up and show out and show what he could do. Because if he doesn't make a huge impact in training camp or the preseason, then he more than likely will be cut, because the Steelers just haven't seen anything from him since he's been on this roster, because he has been injured the entire time. And when you're that veteran and you're getting older, the Steelers or any other team need to see what you could do. Can you still play at a high level? So Dean Lowry needs to prove himself. Cordero Patterson is coming off of the injured list as well, back to the main roster, and he's a different case scenario because the Steelers really signed him for a specific role. They signed him right as a kickoff return rule got changed, so they knew what role he needed to play in this team, and they know what he could do. They know what he could do in the return game, so he just needs to be healthy as well. He doesn't need to prove himself as much because he does play all around, and he's that hybrid type of player from running back to wide receiver to kick returner, and he could just do multiple things on the football field. So getting him back will be huge for this team, especially on special teams. So looking at him, he doesn't really need to prove himself as much. If he just stays healthy, will make this final roster 100%. Now, looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they signed those 2 players, they reinstated the players, look at the related moves, the correlation that they had to do to get those guys on the roster. The team released linebacker Easton Gibbs and placed nose tackle Braden Fiocco on the reserve/injured reserve list. So when you look at this, Easton Gibbs, he was literally just signed last week, but now he has been cut. So how the tables have turned, and things could change in an instant. They could change really quickly at the NFL. You sign 1 week, you're cut the next. So these guys who get signed, like Spencer and like Washington, they have to hurry up and make an impact, or else they're in danger of getting cut from the team as well, to bring in new guys for new opportunities. So they need to make an impact right away, because Easton Gibbs obviously didn't, and he was cut. Braden Fiocco, it seems like he can't catch a break for the Steelers. It seems like he's always either injured or he just doesn't make a huge impact, and then he ends up going to the practice squad. He ends up getting cut from this team. So Braden Fiocco, if you look at a year ago or whenever he came over from the Chargers, it looked like he was a guy who would have been a nose tackle for this team. What a 300-pound guy, someone who could plug up the middle, someone who's a big guy, stop the run, and do everything needed to stop that run. But he just hasn't made an impact. He just has not made this final roster, and he seems like he's always in danger of being cut from this team. So being injured once again is not a good sign for him making this final 53-man roster. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers update for you today. These roster moves aren't the ones that we wanted. It's not Brandon Aiyuk coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's the necessary moves to make this team better and get closer to cut down a roster. So the Pittsburgh Steelers add people, they cut people, they reinstate people, and these are the roster moves they've made. These are 3 different roster moves in terms of sets, but 6 in total. With that being said, let's end this video, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on the signings the Pittsburgh Steelers have made? And do you like the signings, or should they went out and sign someone else? Also, how do you feel about reinstatement of the new players to this team? And do you think they can make this final roster as well in terms of Dean Lowry? Also, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about the players being cut and then the injury reserve in Braden Fiocco as well. Also, let me know how you feel about the Houston Texans versus the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason game and how that went. So, if you like this video, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, analysis, highlights, everything like that. I've covered everything Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll continue to cover everything Pittsburgh Steelers. So, until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.